Imagine for a minute that you've gone out on a Saturday morning to buy a new car. You get to the car lot and are greeted by a salesperson. However, they don't introduce themselves or shake your hand. They walk ahead of you on the lot, pointing out cars well over your budget and never stop to ask what you're looking for. Also, they clearly haven't been listening to what you said in your 5 to 10 minutes of following them from car to car. They talk so quickly you can barely understand what they're saying, they keep looking at their watch, and eventually they leave you standing in a sea of cars while they jog off to answer a personal phone call. This car salesman is sorely lacking in key communication skills that will help them endear themselves to the customer, figure out what the customer is looking for, find what the customer is looking for, and then make a connection that leads to a satisfied new car owner and a happy commission-earning salesperson. Sales success is rooted in the ability to be a good communicator. In fact, it can often mean the difference between making the sale and walking away empty-handed. Being a good communicator means focusing on a few skills that will help you better connect with customers, deliver the needed information, and close the deal. Let's take a look at a few of the common sense skills sales professionals should utilize when communicating with their customers. We'll start with one that you may or may not have heard of, and that's mirroring. Mirroring is a form of mimicry, where one person uses the same speech and body language as the person they're dealing with in order to build a rapport with them. If the customer is being laid back and chatty, you should be casual as well. If they're all business, you should get straight to the point with a no-nonsense approach. Mirroring builds trust, eases tension, develops rapport, and makes the other person more comfortable because they see in you what they're feeling themselves. Speech is another important skill. So much goes into the idea of speech when you're talking with a potential customer, everything from the speed in which you talk to your volume, tone, and clarity. While mirroring is an effective tool for your speed, volume, and clarity, speaking clearly is an overlooked key ingredient. When you speak too quickly, whether you're nervous, eager to get home, or that's just how you talk, you can make the customer feel hurried or pressured to make a decision before they're ready. Many times, if a salesperson's speech isn't clear, the customer will become frustrated, tune out, or leave altogether. Spend some time working on your speech by practicing in front of a mirror, reading aloud, or working with a speech coach. In addition, sales professionals need to be solution-focused. When a customer comes to you, they're doing so because they have a problem they need you to solve. While small talk can help break the ice, your number one goal should be to dig deep and find out what needs or challenges the customer has and match your products or services as solutions. Although it can be hard and even intimidating, it is critical to maintain eye contact with a customer during communication. Experts agree that maintaining eye contact is important because it makes you appear confident and causes your customer to trust you more. Imagine sitting in a sales presentation where the salesperson is looking everywhere in the room except at you. You'd probably think they were lying or uninterested, wouldn't you? Eye contact also shows that you're engaged in the sale. Just be careful that your eye contact doesn't turn into staring, which may make your potential customer really uncomfortable. It might seem like common sense, but using basic manners such as introducing yourself or shaking a person's hand and saying thank you are lost skills for many in today's environment. Returning phone calls in a timely manner is critical, as is silencing your phone when you're in the middle of a sale. It's important not to complain about personal matters or your company to the customer. Greet people with a handshake, introduce yourself by name, and ask the customer's name. Don't interrupt. Answer questions when you need to. Say please and thank you. Above all, be respectful and courteous in all your mannerisms. All critical skills aren't spoken. Reading body language is important as well. If customers are happy or excited, you'll know to capitalize at the right time. If they're bored or losing focus, it may be time to switch things up. Watch for things like crossed arms or which way their body is turned to gauge their interest. Finally, while listening may not seem like a communication skill, it may be the most important skill for a sales professional. Listening to what your customers say is vital to understanding what they want and how you can help. Be fully engaged when they speak, ask questions, and repeat phrases back to them so they know you are truly listening. Being a good communicator is a critical part of any sales professional's job. Honing a few key communication skills can make or break a sale. Using mirroring will reflect back a customer's approach to them. Speaking clearly and being solution-oriented will keep a customer engaged. Maintaining eye contact and using good manners are small but important touches, and being able to read body language will help you move a sale along. Last, but perhaps most important, is the ability to be a good listener so you can deliver the solutions the customer is seeking.
And your in-laws are in town for the evening. You desperately want to impress them with your cooking skills and have spent countless hours researching the perfect meal to prepare for them. You have chosen a dish that is straight from their ethnic heritage, and you know that you have to get the spices right, choosing the right blend and using them at the most optimal time to enhance the flavor of your dish. After much consideration as to what you need to do and the best way to do it, you manage to pull it off perfectly. Communication, like spices, comes in a variety of types. While having a variety is nice, it is important to know which one to use and at what time to maximize your success, much like preparing the meal for your in-laws. Let's take a look at the 4 most common types of communication used by managers, including interpersonal communication, nonverbal communication, written communication, and oral communication. One of the most important, if not the most important, forms of communication a manager will engage in on a daily basis is interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication can be described in a variety of ways, but when we examine what it means in the context of management, we can define interpersonal communication as communication between a small group of individuals, typically in a face-to-face setting, where participants engage in a minimally restricted dialogue with each other. The reason I say that it is minimally restrictive is because individuals who engage in interpersonal communication share some level of familiarity with each other, making them more likely to self-disclose information or provide more intimate details than one would with a stranger, for example. Interpersonal communication essentially breaks down the barriers which people put up to protect themselves. You allow yourself to become vulnerable by putting yourself out there. Managers who engage in interpersonal communication with subordinates demonstrate that they not only care about the organization, especially ones that use teams, but also care about their employees. Taking the time to get to know who your employees are will make them feel valued. This is not to say that every employee will want to get to know you on a more personal level, but it at least tells them that you would like to. The more valued the employee feels, the fewer barriers they feel they need to build around them, and the more easily information flows. As barriers come down, relationships are formed that create value within the organization. Job satisfaction increases, and the workplace becomes a place where everybody likes to be. It is equally important for a manager to communicate interpersonally with upper management as well. Since managers serve as a gatekeeper of information between upper management and subordinates, an effective manager understands their role in keeping the lines of communication open. When organizational information fails to reach its intended recipient, the entire organization can suffer. Did you know that the majority of what you communicate to people on a daily basis is done without words at all? This is also true for managers. Put simply, nonverbal communication is anything besides words, such as gestures, actions, facial expressions, body language, and other aspects of your physical appearance that, when seen, communicate something. I am sure that you've heard the saying, it's not what you say, but how you say it, or perhaps actions speak louder than words. Managers send, receive, and interpret nonverbal messages the same way they would oral or written communication. Still, understanding the significance of nonverbal communication can be troublesome for managers because it is such a normal part of any managerial action. Our nonverbal communication is as automatic as breathing in that we do it without thinking most of the time. Even though nonverbal communication accompanies oral communication as an extension of a particular message, the two do not always align. Because nonverbal communication is often used without consideration, inconsistencies between oral communication and nonverbal communication can occur. Effective managers understand and are aware of their nonverbal communication, ensuring consistency between their spoken communication and their nonverbal communication. While managers spend most of their time communicating with their subordinates and upper managers in a face-to-face setting, they also spend a good deal of time writing memos, letters, emails, and reports. Written communication refers to messages that are transmitted to receivers in writing. Advantages of written communication include 1. Immediacy and economical feasibility. A manager can communicate messages quickly to individuals despite their geographical location. Email is less expensive than long-distance phone calls and certainly less than travel expenses, especially when a message needs to be conveyed to a large group. 2. Efficiency and accuracy. Written communication allows for reflection, affording a manager the opportunity to refine a message for correctness. 3. Flexibility. A manager can send a message and the receiver can review it at a time that is convenient for them. 4. Official record. Written communication provides a formal record of messages being sent and received. The major limitation of written communication is that you cannot always confirm that a message was received by the intended recipient. Writing skills can also be an area of concern for managers who use written communication. A manager must spend time polishing their writing skills to ensure that written messages are sent in a clear, concise, organized, and accurate manner. Oral communication implies communication through the spoken word or using your mouth. A manager would use oral communication for a variety of things, such as meetings, interviews, performance reviews, presentations, trainings, soliciting and providing feedback to subordinates, or when communicating progress to upper management. The list of things a manager can accomplish using oral communication is expansive. Managers tend to rely heavily on oral communication because of the advantages associated with ensuring a message was received, checking for understanding, and soliciting immediate feedback. However, oral communication can also be inconsistent, incomplete, and ambiguous, which all allow for inferences to be made. As explained previously, much of a manager's day is spent conversing with subordinates and upper management. Consequently, effective listening and speaking skills are critical for managerial success. Let's review. The 4 most common types of communication used by managers include interpersonal communication, nonverbal communication, written communication, and oral communication. Interpersonal communication can be described as communication between a small group of individuals, typically in a face-to-face setting, where participants engage in minimally restricted dialogue with each other. Nonverbal communication is anything besides words, such as gestures, actions, facial expressions, body language, and other aspects of your physical appearance that, when seen, communicate something. Written communication refers to messages that are transmitted to receivers in writing. Oral communication implies communication through the spoken word or using your mouth. Each type of communication has its advantages and disadvantages, making it imperative for managers to work on effective skills related to interpersonal communication, nonverbal communication, written communication, and oral communication.
Definition of barriers. Many companies develop difficulties within their organization due to communication issues. There are 5 key barriers that can occur within a company: language, cultural diversity, gender differences, status differences, and physical separation. These barriers to communication are specific items that can distort or prevent communication within an organization. The ability for a company to recognize the communication issues and come to a resolution can drastically improve working conditions, sales, and organizational culture. Let's look at communication barriers through examples at Paint Your Face Cosmetic Company. Paint Your Face Cosmetics is a makeup company that sells products globally. They recently have had numerous excellent ideas for new product development, but for some reason have been unsuccessful with bringing the final product to the marketplace. Additionally, there have been some problems with issues in the departments being hidden and not resolved, trouble within sales meetings, issues between office locations, and difficulties with language barriers. The CEO has a feeling that there are some serious communication issues happening with the organization. Physical separation barrier. A Paint Your Face Cosmetics product development specialist in Europe came up with a new idea that used yogurt as a key ingredient for hair color products. The specialist spent time emailing the marketing manager in the U.S. with the idea, recipe, and product description. The market manager had difficulty getting her answers to product questions back from the specialist in Europe. There were numerous nonverbal cues that were missed due to the use of emails only, and the final email response was interpreted by the specialist as that the manager did not like the product, when in fact, the manager did like the product but only had some concerns about price. The product idea was in danger of being lost. The CEO was able to intercede and suggest that the 2 employees establish a regular meeting via a video conferencing system to iron out the details of the product creation. Once the 2 employees were able to talk face-to-face, the product idea was able to move into final development very quickly. The main issue in the previous example was a communication issue due to a physical barrier. The 2 employees had a physically separated work environment that led to difficulty in finishing the idea. Technology is usually the key to solving the barrier. Emails, phone calls, video conferencing, and webcams can help eliminate the barrier and provide closer communication. Status differences. Status differences have also caused barriers to communication within Paint Your Face Cosmetics. This type of barrier exists due to differences in organizational hierarchy, where employees have difficulty communicating either up or down the corporate ladder. This difficulty can be eliminated by managers who are excellent at relating and understanding their employees. The Vice President of Finance, Adams, realized that his employees were hiding work problems and trying to solve them by themselves. They were afraid to admit mistakes and bring issues to his attention. Adams was able to intercede and communicate that his door was always open for the discussion of issues. He also told the employees that they could use text and email to contact him at any time if they needed his assistance. Gender differences. The differences in how males and females tend to communicate have been studied through research. It has been found that males tend to converse sitting side by side, while females enjoy a more face-to-face exchange. Males don't feel the need or even want to be close by someone when speaking, whereas females prefer a more personal, close setting for communicating. Paint Your Face Cosmetics has many female sales managers. They recently hired 2 male managers for the Western region. Some barriers to sales communication soon developed as gender-specific differences occurred in preparation for the national sales meeting. Paint Your Face Cosmetics sales manager Amanda felt that the 2 new male managers were being rude when she was trying to plan the convention. They took the seats furthest away from her at a large conference table. She had set up a small chair and table to the side of the conference table to talk face-to-face about the plans. Issues such as this can be rectified if both genders are made aware of communication preferences. Amanda and her co-workers attended a gender-specific training class to improve overall communication within the sales department. Cultural diversity. Paint Your Face Cosmetics has had the largest barriers in communication with their global satellite offices regarding cultural diversity. This is the acceptance of individuals' different cultures, talents, and abilities. Each office has a vastly different cultural environment with different work behavior. For example, the Spanish office takes 2-hour siestas or breaks during the day to re-energize. This has led to frustration from their U.S. counterparts when they call and have to wait hours for an answer. The CEO has decided to implement sensitivity training in each global office to make employees aware of different work styles and cultures. Language. The final barrier to communication is language. Paint Your Face Cosmetics has had different types of language-based issues with communication. One language barrier occurs with the technical terminology that exists within the organization. The engineering department uses specific technical terms for product material and production that often confuses the marketing department. The marketing department has acronyms for their product line development systems that infuriates other departments. For example, the marketing department communications through PDC and PDL, which mean Product Development Cycle or Product Development Line. In order to solve acronym issues across the board, the CEO has had each department put together a cheat sheet with the explanations for each abbreviation. Another language barrier that can occur has to do with subtle distinctions in words. For example, when U.S. managers visited their London headquarters and asked for directions to the cafeteria, they quickly became lost. A guard told them to take the lift around the corner to the 5th floor. The managers did not realize that the word lift means elevator in England. These subtle word differences can cause issues when communicating or giving direction in an organization. Paint Your Face Cosmetics now has a small notebook that they give each international visitor with a word dictionary for any differences. The CEO is happy with the quick fixes that were developed to solve potential communication issues within the company. The product development schedule is back on track, and employees are aware of potential language issues through sensitivity training. Lesson summary. There are 5 key barriers that can occur within a company: language, cultural diversity, gender differences, status differences, and physical separation. The ability for a company to recognize the communication issues and come to a resolution can drastically improve working conditions, sales, and organizational culture. Molly Pips just started a brand new job at Mama's Pizzeria in town. She has been hired to take orders and help prepare food. Molly's mother warned her that she needs to pay attention and listen well when working at the restaurant. Every single day, Molly's mom has to remind her about her homework, chores, and to pick up after herself. Her mom is afraid that Molly lacks an effective listening skills. These important skills allow individuals to retain information by showing interest, listening, and providing feedback to the other party in the communication exchange. Molly's boss, Diana, is the owner of Mama's Pizzeria. She is known to be very difficult to work with because she demands perfection. She hates it when employees make mistakes due to not listening to the customers. In fact, she has fired so many employees that she is known as the DRAP Queen. D-R-A-P. Why, you might ask? Well, on her employee break room wall, she has a huge sign with the word, "Know Your DRAP." It's a word that Diana made up, so her employees can easily remember the techniques. DRAP stands for the 4 techniques of effective listening that her employees need to know and use. DRAP is an acronym for deflecting, reflecting, advising, and probing. Deflecting is the ability to change the discussion to a different topic to ensure that the conversation continues. Diana explains to her employees that if a customer complains about their pizza being cold, the employee should apologize, offer a new hot piece of pizza, and then change the discussion by handing the customer a bunch of $5 off coupons. Reflecting is the second effective listening technique, and it is the skill of letting the customer know that you are listening to what they are saying. For example, Diana requires that after her employees take phone orders, they must then repeat the order back to the customer to ensure that it is correct. The third technique is advising, which means all of her employees must be capable of giving good advice. Just last week, Diana was impressed because one of her employees advised a customer about the best catering menu alternatives for their college graduation party. The worker actually told the customer that they were ordering too much food and was able to save them money by ordering less. The last part of effective listening is probing, or the ability to attain more information by asking questions. Diana always preaches to her workers that it is important to ask many questions when taking an order. Some examples would be, do you want an order of fries with that? Or how would you like that cooked? Or do you want your dressing on the side? Molly was fully trained and ready to start taking orders. Molly's first few days on the job were uneventful as she kept the DRAP Queen happy by following the techniques of effective listening. Then Friday rolled around and the restaurant became extremely busy. Molly started to make mistakes and not follow DRAP. For example, she stopped using the reflecting technique and did not repeat back to customers their phone food orders. One customer quickly became irate because they ordered a cheesesteak pizza and instead received a cheesecake and a pizza. Molly was mortified and ran in the back room. 5 minutes later, Diana came back and quickly took Molly aside. She did not yell at Molly. Instead, she sat her down and reiterated why DRAP is important to follow. She said it's understandable to make mistakes now and then. She told Molly that she needed to be aware of barriers to effective listening, which are obstacles that cause the listener not to hear correctly what the speaker is communicating. She said that Molly just exhibited one of the barriers by trying to impress the customers and not repeat their orders. One way to overcome this mistake is to really listen and not be afraid to ask customers to repeat their order. Diana explained that there are 3 other barriers: being a know-it-all, being competitive, and overreacting. Diana explained that her best employee, Scott, is very intelligent, but when he first started, he used to cut off customers' orders and tell them to order something else instead. He would also talk over top of their commentary and was a know-it-all. Scott soon realized he needed to wait at least 3 seconds to make sure the customers were done talking. Sometimes they had an appetizer or changed their own mind about an order. He was able to overcome this barrier. Diana herself still has problems being competitive when talking to her business partner, Paul. She's always thinking of what next to say instead of listening to what he's saying. Sometimes she misses important business information. Lastly, Diana said she was overcoming the last barrier right now. She did not want to overreact to Molly's mistake by yelling or lecturing. She wanted to ask Molly what happened and then give her tips on how to make improvements in the future. She told Molly to go back out to the counter, apologize to the customer, and give them a free dinner. Molly breathed a sigh of relief. She knew that if she kept trying to develop effective listening skills, she would be a better daughter, sister, student, and employee. Diana has been able to survive in the competitive restaurant business by establishing a successful business through hard work and professionalism. A key element is developing effective listening skills in her workplace. These important skills allow individuals to retain information by showing interest, listening, and providing feedback to the other party in the communication exchange. She has created an easy way for her employees to remember techniques of effective listening by crowning herself the DRAP Queen. DRAP stands for the 4 techniques of effective listening that her employees need to know and use. DRAP is an acronym for deflecting, reflecting, advising, probing. Deflecting is the ability to change the discussion to a different topic to ensure that the conversation continues. Reflecting is the second effective listening technique and is the skill of letting the customer know that you're listening to what they're saying. The third technique is advising, which means all her employees must be capable of giving good advice. The last technique is probing, or the ability to attain more information by asking questions. In addition, there are some key barriers that individuals need to be aware of in order to adapt their listening behavior. The barriers are trying to impress, being a know-it-all, being competitive, and overreacting. If individuals are able to stop, listen, and then react, they will be able to circumvent the barriers. Molly has been able to learn from her own listening mistakes, and now is the head cashier at the pizza restaurant.
Picture 2 different salespeople trying to get you to buy the same product. One salesperson is very pushy and loud. You can tell that he just wants you to buy his product. He doesn't really care about you or how his product can help you. No, he just cares that you buy and he gets your money. No, you don't like that kind of salesperson. Plus, you can't trust those kinds of salespeople because their products can be bogus products that'll just fall apart soon after you start using it. Okay, moving on. The next salesperson is more genuine. He's not pushy or loud. Instead, this salesperson listens to what you have to say, then he shows you how his product can help you solve some of your problems. He shows you just how smoothly the product works and highlights the features of the product that will be most useful for you. This salesperson isn't loud and pushy. He does stress the points of the product that interest you. You feel as if this salesperson has really listened to you and really cares about you. He won't sell you something you don't need. Okay, question time. Why do you think you trust the second salesperson more? It's because of his tone of voice. The tone of voice here refers to the pitch, volume, and speed of what is said. Also included is diction, choosing the right words to achieve a desired result. You'll learn how you, a sales professional, can use your voice to help you increase your sales success. Increasing your sales is one of the biggest benefits that comes from using your voice properly when selling. This is especially important when you are selling over the phone. In person, you have the added benefit of being able to also communicate in nonverbal ways, such as through body language. So you'll be able to visually show your potential customers just what they can expect from your product. When you're selling over the phone, though, all you have is your voice. Use your voice properly with the right pitch, volume, and speed, and you'll probably experience higher sales. Another benefit you'll receive from using your voice properly is gaining the trust of people to whom you talk to, your potential customers. Now, let's talk about the techniques you can use. First, use your pitch or tone of voice to stress the important aspects of what you are speaking about. You don't want to have a conversation in a monotone voice. It's not exciting and can ruin your sales. So, vary your pitch. Raise your pitch when you want to stress an important point or ask an interesting question. Also, vary your pitch enthusiastically if you're talking about an exciting topic, and lessen it if you're talking about a serious topic. Using a varied tone will increase your sales over monotone, loud, or super excited tones. Next, you can also adjust the volume of your voice as needed. Just like you can use your pitch to stress important points, you can also increase your volume to catch people's attention and encourage them to remember certain points. You do have to be careful though. You want to speak loud enough to hear, but not too loud so as to appear to be yelling. Third, there's the words you choose to use, your diction. Use words that the person you're speaking with understands and connects with. If you are trying to sell a technical product to someone who isn't very techy, then using too many technical words will probably cause your potential customer to disconnect from you, preventing you from getting a sale. For example, if someone doesn't understand what RAM really means, it won't help you to get a sale if you mention the amount of RAM the computer you're trying to sell them has. Instead, if you say that this product is powerful enough that apps and programs open up within seconds, so your potential customer doesn't have to wait too long, then it makes more sense to the customer, and you just might get the sale then. On the other hand, if your potential customer is a techie geek, then by all means go into the technical specifics of the product. Just remember, use words that your potential customer understands. Let's take a look at an example. Sam is an expert salesperson. He has years and years of experience. He's also got his voice trained so he knows just how to use it to help him get a sale. Right now, he's selling a new set of pots and pans that are guaranteed to never stick with a 20-year non-stick guarantee. His potential customers are mostly busy moms with kids. These moms want pots and pans that don't stick and are quick and easy to clean. To help increase his sales, Sam makes sure to speak in a way that shows he understands what these moms go through. He uses his voice by changing his pitch and volume to highlight the selling features of his pots and pans to these moms. He points out that his pots and pans are non-stick and will remain so for years to come. And because they're non-stick pans, they'll be easy to clean as well. He also uses words that other moms use, such as easy to clean and non-stick. Let's review what we've learned here. Tone of voice refers to the pitch, volume, and speed of what is said. Also included is diction, the words you choose to use. For your pitch, vary it to highlight or stress the selling features that will appeal to your audience. Your volume can also be used to stress selling points, but make sure your volume is neither too loud for the occasion or too low. Also, to increase your sales, use words that your audience relates to. Don't speak above them or below them.
Sally and Pam are best friends who are competing for a spot in the school play. Sally gets the role that Pam wants, but the two vow to remain close friends. In the following days, Sally notices that Pam won't look her in the eye when she speaks and won't stand close to her, and that Pam's voice is much lower than it used to be. Though Pam's words are friendly, and she says that everything is fine, Sally can tell that Pam is hurt due to Pam's nonverbal cues. As a response, Sally decides to give Pam a tight hug and tell her that she loves her no matter what, and that Pam too is special. Every time we communicate with other individuals, we are sending them messages. While part of the message is in the words we speak, there are also other ways we communicate. We also communicate by sending nonverbal cues, which refers to the process of sending information through ways that do not require the use of language. For example, we might communicate support by giving someone a high five or by hugging him or her. We might use hand gestures to communicate direction, such as pointing to the left or right, or position our bodies in such a way that we communicate dominance. Our nonverbal behaviors, such as the way we sit, our tone of voice, or how fast we talk, communicate messages to other people. Let's take our earlier example. Pam's words did not indicate that she was sad about losing the part in the play. However, by refusing to make eye contact with Sally, not standing near Sally, and speaking in lower tones, Pam was communicating her sadness. Nonverbal cues may be intentional or unintentional. For example, Pam was not purposefully trying to communicate her sadness. On the contrary, she wanted Sally to think that she was okay. Nonverbal cues are an important part of communication. Nonverbal cues can provide information about a person's feelings and attitude, intelligence, mental and physical state, and roles, among other things. They allow us to send signals without the use of language. All of our nonverbal cues, such as the way we stand and our tone of voice, send information that can help the person we are communicating with interpret the information we are sending. We can tell if someone is paying attention to what we are saying or if they are interested in the conversation by looking at their nonverbal cues. Many people can tell if someone is lying by looking at that person's nonverbal behavior. Nonverbal cues can help clarify meaning, such as when a person makes a joke and then smiles afterward. They can also help us decipher mixed signals, such as when Pam was verbally saying one thing, but her body language communicated something else. There are several types of nonverbal cues, including facial expressions, like when a woman twists her face in a certain manner to communicate disgust. Posture, such as when a woman sitting in a chair leans forward to indicate interest in a conversation. Gestures, for example, a person who uses his or her index finger to beckon someone. Eye contact, like when a child or teenager looks down at the ground and avoids eye contact to communicate shame. Touch, such as when a man gives his girlfriend's father a firm handshake when meeting him for the first time to communicate strength and respect. Space, for instance, a man stands close to his girlfriend to communicate unity and affection. Voice, like when a man or a woman raises his or her voice when talking to a friend to communicate anger. Nonverbal cues involve the process of sending information without relying on spoken words. Nonverbal cues are useful for many things, including clarifying messages, communicating mood and attitude, and deciphering mixed signals. Examples of nonverbal cues include eye contact, hand gestures, and facial expressions. So remember the next time a friend tells you that he or she is fine, look for some nonverbal cues. He or she might just need your comfort after all.
Let's pretend you're a salesperson in a mall clothing store. Your store has signage to help customers find things: pants, shirts, shoes, etc. Did you realize that your customers also have a type of signage? Your customers are giving you signs through their body language, which is nonverbal communication, such as expressions, gestures, and posture. If you can interpret not just what your customers say, but what their body language tells you, you can go from being a good salesperson to being a great one. There are many subtleties in body language, and it can be complex to actively listen and evaluate nonverbal communication at the same time. But being observant and making adjustments will give you an advantage. Research has shown that 55% of communication is through body language, 38% is tone of voice, and 7% is the actual words. So what do we look for? Here are some things to consider. The windows to the soul. Yes, we're talking about the eyes and the surrounding area. When people agree with you or are drawn to an object, they tend to maintain eye contact. If they're disinterested, they'll look away, and if they're bored, they may glance around aimlessly. Eyes opening wide indicate interest. Eyes narrowing indicate that the person may be troubled by what he or she sees. A genuine smile will create crinkles around the eyes. Raised or lowered eyebrows indicate disagreement or discomfort. Steady, prolonged eye contact without breaks is not natural, may indicate lying, and can make people uncomfortable. Facial expressions. Some signals of stress or disagreement can be a clenched jaw, a furrowed brow, or the head turned slightly away so the person is looking at you sideways. Watch the mouth. The corners turned up is a good thing, the beginnings of a smile. The corners turned down, not so good. Tightly pressed lips are like closed arms, a warning sign. Posture and gestures. Arms crossed indicate a person is probably closed off to what you're saying. Conversely, open hands and arms are signs that you're doing well. A person leaning forward is probably interested. A person moving away or creating space has a concern. If the shoulders and torso are facing you, you're likely on the same page. Nodding is good, unless it is exaggerated nodding, which can indicate anxiety. Customer movements can also provide you with information. If they're looking around for help, they came in on a mission to buy. Spending a lot of time in front of one product, reaching in their pockets or wallet to see how much money they brought, obviously good things. If they're darting around and not making eye contact with you, they may not be quite ready to buy. Your body language is very important as well. It sends signals to customers. Your signals matter too. You should appear open and approachable by smiling and making eye contact, with some breaks. Mirroring their body language, pace, and movements is possible without being creepy. If they're walking fast, you're walking fast. Same thing with speaking. If they're talking fast, match their pace to a certain extent. Be respectful of their personal space and don't make dominant gestures that could be taken as aggressive. Your positive facial expressions will show that you care and are listening to their needs. If you receive a positive buying signal, act on it and move to close the sale. If something about their demeanor sets off warning bells, ask questions to determine the root cause so you can move forward one way or another. Don't miss a sell because you're not paying attention to your customer's body language or nonverbal communication. Facial expressions, posture, and gestures are actually more important than the words themselves. Watch your customers' reactions and movements carefully for positive buying signals and also for indications things are not going well. Your own body language is important too, and sometimes it helps to mirror your customers' actions and speech patterns. Make sure to act quickly on positive buying signals. In other words, move to close the sale. If you sense negative buying signals, ask questions to clarify the discomfort.
As a sales professional, you want your sales calls to be successful. But the question is, how can you do that? It's all about how you handle your sales conversations. And it's not just about listening to the words that your potential customer is speaking. No, it actually involves a little bit more, as you'll learn in this lesson. For example, in a sales conversation, your potential customer might say something like, he really couldn't spend that much on such a product like that right now. What does this potential customer actually mean by that? This statement doesn't really tell you all that much. Your potential customer might be hesitant to tell you what's truly preventing him from purchasing the product. This potential customer might have already told you that he really likes the product and could use it at home. However, by giving you this statement, your potential customer is letting you down softly. If you take the statement at face value, then you probably will lose a sale. But if you probe a little further and read between the lines, so to speak, you just might be able to find the true reason behind this seeming sales fail. Probing a little further, you just might find that your potential customer is actually telling you that yes, your product is cool, but not cool enough for him to spend that much on it. Perhaps if you discounted the price, then you'd get a sale. Or perhaps you can show that this product can do even more than what your potential customer realizes. Once you know the true reason, then you can work with it. To read between the lines means to find the true meaning behind what is said. Not all people will say what's truly on their minds, but there are techniques you can use to help you find the true meaning. This will help you increase the success of your sales conversations. The biggest helper you have when reading between the lines is nonverbal communication, or unspoken communication. This includes body language and facial expressions. This is why in-person sales are always more successful than telephone sales. Just think about the last time a telemarketer called you and you were happy to hear from them and actually bought something from them. Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, does it? But how often have you gone into a store and purchased something you didn't plan on purchasing from a salesperson? It's pretty likely that you probably have done this at one time or another. So, as a sales professional yourself, you should strive to make sales calls in person as much as possible. If you can't meet in person, then try to do it via a video chat service such as Skype or FaceTime. That way you'll be able to see the facial expressions and body language of your potential customer. You'll be able to see how he or she reacts to your words and questions. For example, if you say something that seems to deter your potential customer, you'll see a negative nonverbal reaction. You'll see positive body language if your potential customer likes what you're saying. So how do you figure all this out? There are some standard cues that most people display in similar situations. For example, in most cultures, a frown means you don't like what is being discussed at the moment. And yes, that's right, you need to take into account the culture of your potential customer, because culture can affect body language and other nonverbal cues. Someone averting eye contact in one culture means respect, while it means disinterest in another. So if you're speaking to someone from a different culture, do some homework first on that culture to see if they have any differing nonverbal cues from yours. Besides nonverbal cues, you can also ask questions that will help you draw out the thoughts of your potential customer. For example, you can ask something like, what do you think our company or product does? This question will tell you if your potential customer has the right viewpoint about your company. If you find that he or she has a false idea of your company or product, you can then go about correcting that view. This could very well lead to a sale. Let's take a look at an example. Jeremy is a leading sales representative for a hamster cage company. Right now, he's working on trying to get a major pet supply chain store to start selling his company's hamster cages. He's going to visit the corporate purchaser of the pet store to discuss this possibility. Jeremy is getting himself prepared to give the best sales presentation he can. He has all his supporting documents and he's practiced the perfect sales presentation. As Jeremy is giving his presentation, though, he notices that the purchaser shifted uncomfortably when Jeremy was showing pictures of only all-plastic cages with those hamster tubes coming out all over the place. So Jeremy returns to his product line and asks the purchaser if there's anything she'd change about the products he's shown her. She tells him that she prefers cages with some metal for airflow. Jeremy goes ahead then and explains that the company does indeed also make plastic and wire cages. Because Jeremy noticed the non-verbal cues from the purchaser, Jeremy closed the deal and got a new customer for his hamster cages. Let's review what we've learned about reading between the lines in sales conversations. To read between the lines means to find the true meaning behind what is said. In sales presentations, it involves observing the facial expressions and body language of your potential customer. For example, a frown is most likely indicating that the person isn't reacting well to what you're saying. These nonverbal cues let you gauge your potential customer's reaction to your sales presentation, whether positive or negative. Since nonverbal communication is essentially unspoken communication, you can proceed to answer any unspoken questions as well as ask questions that allow your potential customer to connect with you. However, remember that a lot of nonverbal communication differs from culture to culture, so you need to take that into account when reading between the lines.
An assumption is something we take for granted, but how many times in your life did your assumptions turn out to be wrong? Most likely, more than a handful of times, so it's pretty self-explanatory that doing your best to avoid assumptions and sales is many times an asset as opposed to a detriment. We're going to explore why in this lesson. We'll start with exploring assumptions from a customer's end and how that relates to honesty as part and parcel of a sales professional working his or her magic. You've surely heard stories of sales pros who were gleeful about the fact that they managed to pull one over a client and score a big sale. Maybe they sold some appliances labeled as new, which were actually about to break down. This may be a stretch of an example, but it helps illustrate an important point nonetheless. How did those sales professionals achieve such a sale? They probably lied. Their dishonesty led to the customers assuming that what she was in fact paying for was new. Her assumption turned out to be wrong, and her judgment of the sales professional's character as well as the company they represent and the product they sell almost certainly dropped to rock bottom. That client won't be coming back, and she'll make sure everyone else knows about it as well. Now, let's turn to the other side. Assumptions sales professionals make that can be wrong are known as false assumptions. We'll go over how false assumptions made by sales professionals can impact them or their customers. Let's follow Sally, the saleswoman, around for a bit to see what false assumptions she makes and how she corrects them. Sally's first customer of the day is a businessman who is looking for a solution to his problem. Initially, Sally falsely assumes that the businessman's problems are easy to fix. First, she could be flat out wrong and her company may have no solution for the businessman. Second, even if the problems are relatively simple to Sally's mind, they are certainly not to the businessman. The best thing Sally can do is empathize with her client and show the client in a stepwise fashion that she understands what is going on and that the product she is selling can address his concerns. The businessman appreciates Sally taking the time to understand and provide solutions for his concerns. Sally makes another false assumption that the customer will instantly buy her company's product instead of her competitors because he clearly understands the difference between the two. The problem is that it's hard for customers to differentiate between similar business products from competitors. So Sally shouldn't assume that the businessman understands the fine differences between her company's product and that of a competitor's. Instead, she should clearly explain to the businessman what he's going to get and how it's different and much better than a competitor's product. Thanks to that, the businessman can now better appreciate why Sally's product is better. However, he eventually decides not to buy the product Sally is selling. Sally makes another false assumption. She assumes that she lost a potential customer because the price was too high. In fact, the price itself is rarely a deciding factor. Instead, it's the customer's appreciation of the value he gets for the cost of the product. So next time, Sally should ensure she explains exactly how much time, money, and stress the customer will save thanks to her company's product, or how much will be gained in terms of better customer service. Other false assumptions in sales include assuming everyone knows your company. The reality, many potential clients don't search for a company or solution online right away. They might ask someone they know for a recommendation and avoid the hassle of finding someone themselves. Another false assumption is thinking that current clients aren't interested in other products the company has. The reality, clients may not take the time to find out what other products you have, and if they need them, you should evaluate their needs and suggest the products yourself. Finally, salespeople might falsely assume that buyers make purchase decisions based on 100% logic. Not true. Humans are emotional animals, and even with a clear, logical explanation, you might still fail to make the case and convince someone to buy your product. Emotional appeal may have some value in your sales arsenal as a result. An assumption is something we take for granted, and when this turns out to be false, we call it a false assumption. There are numerous false assumptions people in sales might make. For instance, a salesperson might falsely assume that a client's problems are easy to fix. Not to the client they aren't. Empathize with clients and show them how you clearly understand their issues and how your product clearly addresses each problem. Another false assumption is thinking that a client clearly understands the difference between your product and a competitor's. Not exactly. If the products are similar enough, customers may have no idea what the difference really is. It's your job to make it clear. Additionally, you might falsely assume that you didn't make the sale because the price was too high. Probably not. It's the failure to create value that justifies the cost that is more likely to be the problem. Show customers how much they gain and how the price of the product pales in comparison to that. You might also falsely assume that everyone knows your company. Remember when you asked a friend for a recommendation of a good restaurant before you searched online for new ones? Exactly. Another false assumption is thinking a current client knows about your other products. Do you know about every product or service your local auto shop offers? Nope. It's the sales team's job to identify what the client needs and to match it with what's on offer. Finally, thinking that buyers are 100% logical is a false assumption. The best ads on TV evoke plenty of emotion and not pure logic, so use some of that in your sales as well. Imagine you're at a party when your friend introduces you to one of her coworkers. He seems nice enough at first, but after 10 minutes, you've changed your mind about him. He spent the entire time talking about his personal life, kept interrupting others, and eventually spilled his drink all over you before bumping into another partygoer and stomping off in a huff. What you just witnessed was the quickest way to leave a bad impression. Luckily, we've packed this lesson full of tips and techniques to help you avoid scenarios just like the naughty partygoer. Keep watching to learn about ways you can leave a lasting impression as a sales professional. In sales, it's important that you be remembered, and for all the right reasons. Let's take a look at some of the easiest ways to do that. Be yourself. Authenticity, that is, being real or genuine, is an important trait for sales professionals because customers can pretty easily detect when the person they're dealing with is being fake. It can be intimidating to be yourself, though, particularly if you're nervous or trying hard to make a good impression. The good news is that being authentic doesn't require any special skills or training. It's simply being yourself with your own opinions and personality. If you feel yourself slipping into inauthenticity, acknowledge it and remind yourself who you are. Understand that having your own ideas and approach might feel uncomfortable at times, but it will leave the right impression of your true self with others. Be curious. People love to talk about themselves, so a great way to leave a good impression is to show genuine curiosity and interest in your customers. You can do this by asking questions and using active listening, which requires you to be fully engaged in the conversation. Empower others. Empowering your customers happens when you take the focus off of making the sale and put it squarely on arming your customers with the knowledge they need to make the best decision for them. Your customers will recognize when you're more focused on solving their need or fixing their problem, rather than simply focusing on them as a number. The best way to empower individuals as a sales professional is to be informed about your products and services. Answer customer questions honestly and engage in conversations that help customers feel energized and excited about dealing with you and your company. Manage stress. The sales profession can be a stressful one. Learning how to manage stress and pressure before and during a sale can help you strike the right tone with customers. If you can remain calm, cool, and collected, you'll prove to customers that you're able to handle pressure and adversity in the right way. Sales professionals can actually benefit from harnessing the benefits of stress by using that energy to set goals and challenge themselves a bit by stretching their capabilities. Use perceived failures as learning opportunities. Find ways to break outside your comfort zone so that when the high-pressure sales meeting happens, you're primed and ready. Use clear language. From the moment you introduce yourself to the heart of the sale, using clear, easy-to-understand language is essential for making a good first and lasting impression. You may feel comfortable speaking in slang or talking more quickly, but those traits are likely to be off-putting to potential clients. In addition to speaking clearly, using the right tone and volume, and enunciating your words or adapting your communication in a way that resonates with your customer are also helpful. Use the tactic of mirroring or mimicking the style and tone of the customer's own language to help them feel more comfortable. Another important communication technique is developing an elevator speech, a quick commercial about yourself, your company, and your products or services that succinctly states the most important details. Do something unexpected. Do you want to be remembered for all the right reasons? Find a way to do something unexpected that will help you stand out from the crowd. This doesn't have to be a grand gesture. Even a handwritten note or a follow-up phone call will be enough to show both established and potential clients that you're different from the rest. Use this tip to remember your clients' important dates, such as sending them a birthday card, hosting a small client appreciation event that's invitation only, or delivering a special offer or discount. It's not difficult to leave a good lasting impression with clients and potential clients if you work as a sales professional. The best place to start is by being yourself. True authenticity shines through, and conversely, most people can sniff out fakeness fairly quickly. Being genuinely curious about your clients by asking questions and participating in active listening can endear yourself to those you're talking to. Using clear language and the technique of mirroring, or mimicking the style and tone of the customer's own language, can help conversations be more effective. Developing an elevator speech can make a quick presentation of your key points deliverable in a concise manner. Sales professionals should also seek to manage stress and empower their clients. Doing something unexpected, like sending a handwritten card or remembering a birthday, can also leave a lasting impression.
Let's say you have the best product with the best features at the lowest price. Your marketing is spot on, your website is engaging, and you're a likable person in a pretty likable company. But people still aren't buying from you. Why? The answer could be in a small 5-letter word: trust. Someone once said that consumers don't buy from people they like, they buy from people they trust. Are you sure your customers view you as trustworthy? Establishing trust may be the most critical piece of the puzzle in sales. Without it, it doesn't matter how you price your item, how many sales you offer, or how great your website looks. Customers simply won't be interested. In this lesson, we'll talk more about the importance of honesty in building trust and rapport in sales. If you want information on the hottest toy of the moment because you need a gift idea for your niece, where would you go? If you answer the internet, you're probably not alone. Thanks to the power and connectedness of the tech-savvy 21st century, we now have access to more information than any other generation before us. However, this hyperconnectivity also comes with a downside. Sometimes you get more information than you want and discover that someone, a person, brand, or business, hasn't been completely truthful in its product development or marketing. That's a bummer, right? This is just one reason why honesty is so important in building trust and rapport in sales. With just a few clicks of a mouse, your customers can learn everything about you, your products, and your business, easily discerning what's real and what's not. With the amount of competition vying for consumers' interest, what is likely to be the customer's choice for doing business? A brand with the lowest prices that shows itself to be dishonest and untrustworthy, or a brand with slightly higher prices that holds itself to a higher standard of ethical behavior? So, how do you showcase your trustworthiness? Trust will bloom between consumers and a company through offering quality customer service, obtaining and managing online feedback and reviews, and embracing a culture of transparency, responsiveness, and reliability. So, now you know why it's important to be honest with consumers, but what kinds of benefits can the role of honesty play in your day-to-day sales? Trust. We've already discussed it, but honesty and transparency facilitate a relationship built on trust. For example, if you're honest about what your product is able to do for customers and customers can see that proof in action for themselves, they will learn to expect honesty from future interactions with you. If you fudge the truth, however, customers will figure that out quickly and take their business elsewhere. Reputation. Everyone wants to have a positive reputation. This can only be obtained through a history of honesty and trustworthiness. Companies with negative reputations didn't get there overnight. It happened after a pattern of untrustworthy actions or behaviors. Loyalty. Keeping the business you already have is easier and cheaper than finding new business. Trust and honesty are the foundation of growing loyal customers. When customers trust you, they will stick with you because they have no reason to go anywhere else. Team morale. They may not say it outright, but employees would rather work for a business that operates above board than one that operates on the fringes of unethical behavior. When companies operate honestly, the morale of its employees improves and turnover decreases. Growth. Business growth is a byproduct of honest and trustworthy sales professionals. When word gets out that your business is transparent and honest in its dealings, people will want to do business with you, which leads us to the next point. The more customers you have, the more you can grow various areas of your business. Word of mouth. One study states that more than 80% of customers will recommend a company that they trust to people they know. Word of mouth is a powerful weapon in marketing and growing your business. Rapport. At its heart, rapport in a relationship is about understanding and trusting one another. Good rapport in relationships with your clients means that you'll be the first sales professional they think of when they need something. Honesty is a vital component of building trust for sales professionals dealing with customers. Thanks to the current information age, customers have the ability to discern whether you're being truthful in your dealings with them or not. The role of honesty in sales is important, not only to building trust and rapport with clients, but for establishing a positive reputation. Customers who trust you are more likely to refer you to others through word of mouth and to be loyal themselves. Being trustworthy can also help your business grow and keep team morale high.
Consumer buying behavior is the sum total of a consumer's attitudes, preferences, intentions, and decisions regarding the consumer's behavior in the marketplace when purchasing a product or service. The study of consumer behavior draws upon social science disciplines of anthropology, psychology, sociology, and economics. The standard model of consumer behavior consists of a methodical and structured process. Let's take a brief look at each step. Problem recognition. The first step is problem recognition. During this step, the consumer realizes that she has an unfulfilled need or want. Let's use the example of a consumer who has just been informed by her mechanic that fixing her car will cost more than it's worth. Our consumer realizes that she now has a transportation problem and wants to fulfill that need with the purchase of a car. Information search. The next step is to gather information relevant to what you need to solve the problem. In our example, our consumer may engage in research on the internet to determine the types of vehicles available and their respective features. Evaluation. After information is gathered, it is evaluated against the consumer's needs, wants, preferences, and financial resources available for purchase. In our example, our consumer has decided to narrow her choices down to 3 cars based upon price, comfort, and fuel efficiency. Purchase. At this stage, the consumer will make a purchasing decision. The ultimate decision may be based on factors such as price or availability. For example, our consumer has decided to purchase a particular model of car because its price was the best she could negotiate and the car was available immediately. Post-purchase evaluation. At this stage, the consumer will decide whether the purchase actually satisfies her needs and wants. Is our car purchaser happy with her purchase? If she's not satisfied, why isn't she? Let's take a brief look at 4 different types of consumer buying behaviors. Number 1, complex buying behavior. This type of behavior involves a high degree of consumer involvement in the buying process, with the consumer seeing a great difference among brand choices. The example of our consumer buying a car is an example of complex buying behavior. Number 2, habitual buying behavior. A typical consumer's involvement in the buying process is low because the consumer doesn't see much difference between available brands in habitual buying behavior. The purchase of a food commodity such as a sack of flour or sugar is a good example. It may also indicate that the customer has performed the normal decision analysis in the past, and the purchase is not of sufficient consequence to warrant a reanalysis. An example may be a consumer who constantly purchases the same size, flavor, and brand of soda whenever she's thirsty. Number 3, dissonance-reducing buying behavior. Here, the consumer will have a high level of involvement in the purchase, but perceives very few differences among product choices. A classic example is a parent buying a child a toy such as a stuffed teddy bear. While the child is deeply involved in making the toy purchase, the frustrated parent doesn't see any real difference between the stuffed bears on the shelf. Keep in mind that there may be differences, but the parent doesn't perceive them. In order to end his frustration, the parent will just pick one based on price, convenience, or random chance, thus ending the dissonance or discomfort in making a frustrating decision. Number 4, variety-seeking behavior. In this type of consumer behavior, there is a low degree of consumer involvement in the purchasing process, but a high degree of differences between brands. An example of this may be microbrew beer, where a consumer just picks a different microbrew each week for the variety. Consumer buying behavior is the mix of a consumer's attitudes, preferences, and decision-making process when the consumer is acting in the marketplace to buy a good or service. The standard behavioral model of consumer purchase decision-making is problem identification, information search, evaluation, purchase, and post-purchase evaluation. 4 typical types of consumer behaviors when making a purchase include complex buying, habitual buying, dissonance-reducing buying, and variety-seeking buying.